Hey folks, welcome to BrushPile Fishing. It's time for another video podcast. As always, we've got a great guest in store today, a man I met a couple years ago at our veterans tournament for Travis Mills, actually. And Barney Gammon's going to join us. He is a guide here in Ohio. We don't talk a lot about guides here up north. Everything seems to be concentrated down south. But we're going to talk to Barney and some Ohio fishing, so stay tuned. We'll be right back with BrushPile Fishing, the video podcast. All right, folks, welcome back. And Barney, you with us?
I'm here.
I'll tell you what, it's a nasty day here in Ohio. We got temperatures of about 40, which we're not complaining about. We're in the first week of December, but it's rainy out there. But you are a guide. Now, listen, folks, he's from one of our rivals in the high school football area. But Barney and I have got to be pretty good friends over the last couple of years. Barney, you are guiding here in Ohio. What lakes do you like to concentrate on?
My favorite lakes are the Columbus lakes, Alum Creek, O'Shaughnessy, Delaware until the issues there. But and here lately I've been picking up a lot of time on Griggs. That's kind of a hidden gem.
Never fished that.
Yeah, a lot of people are kind of overlooking Griggs, and it's been a lot of fun here lately.
Really? What are you doing to catch him fish right now?
You know how I roll, Russ. I'm a LivScope guy, so typically looking for any kind of structure with side imaging, and of course you look for patterns, the winter patterns, the summer patterns, all that good stuff. But then especially at Griggs, they're really schooled up well right now. So you find one, you find 1,000, and it's a blast.
Well, and want to talk about that a little bit. One of the things that I wanted to bring, Barney, you were probably one of the first in Ohio to actually get the LivScope and start using it when it first came out. And I know one of the things that you like to do when you're guiding, if someone not just wants to catch fish, but they want to learn to use that LivScope, one of the things you concentrate on is the teaching part of that. Absolutely.
So I was fortunate enough that I came into a little bit of money at the same time LivScope came out. And so I had a boat that didn't have any electronics on it and happened to be in Bass Pro the week of their triple threat sale in March. And the guy behind the counter said, "Dude, you got to check this out." And so I was looking at it. I thought, man, if this thing is 50% of what they say it's going to be fun. So like I said, I had some money. I had changed jobs and talked him into a signing bonus. So, I had a little bit of money that was kind of free money, so to speak. And after talking to him, I gave it a shot, and it took a little while to get used to it. It was definitely something brand new, and really there wasn't anybody to reach out to for help. So it was just go play with it and see what you can figure out. And that was March of 2018. So I've been playing with it for about 5.5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's been a learning curve for sure. And I would never say I'm the best at anything, and I don't believe I am, but experience equals knowledge, right? And so I've played around with it quite a bit and fine-tuned it quite a bit. And since then, there's been, I think, 6 total LivScope systems come through my boats. And, right now my current boat is set up with 3 standalone systems. And the reason I did that was exactly what you alluded to. So I can get people in 3 different spots in my boat. And as you know, with spot lock, sometimes the wind doesn't let you fish where you want to fish.
Yeah.
So having the one in the back of the boat comes in handy a lot, especially on strong wind days. And we're able to set, 3 different people up and show them how to use it and let them get firsthand experience and playing around with the system. And usually it's, oh my gosh, they get down there. That's my bait. Are you serious? That's a fish? Really? As you know, it's pretty eye-opening and pretty mind-boggling what you can see with LivScope. So,
yeah,
you get people on it, and I think I've had 5 different friends that booked a trip with me that didn't know me, and we went out and went fishing. And afterwards, they're calling me and saying, "Hey, I'm going to go buy a LivScope. Can you help me out? Can you tell me where to get it? Can you tell me what to get?" And a few of those we've even met up, and I've helped them set them up in their boat, wire them and, figure out where they want the screens, where they want the pole, if they want it on the trolling motor, that kind of stuff. So it's something that I've had a lot of fun learning and playing around with. And it's pretty rewarding for me personally when somebody calls and says, man, I just can't get it working right. I can't ever see my jig. I can't ever see clarity. I can't tell what's a fish. And usually we can hop on their boat and within, half hour, 45 minutes, we can get them set up pretty well.
And again, that goes back to that experience you've had, because you've had yours for a while. I know, and just to be honest, there are people that love LivScope. There are people that hate LivScope. But it's here to stay. It's an effective tool. And I've talked on our show several times about I've never seen anything affect the industry as much as LivScope has. I use mine a little different. I'm a little bit older than you. I'm still old school, but not so old that I don't use my LivScope. But I like using it if I'm fishing a brush pile or a row of pontoons or docks. I want to see where the fish are at. Are they tight in that structure? Are they, around the structure? And, if even like standing timber, I just want to know if they're there. And then I basically go back to what I was doing, normally shooting docks or whatever. I still like doing that. I like dropping down and not knowing what's going to hit or when. But I still use that LivScope to see if they're there because, man, even if you only use it that way, you eliminate dead water or, if you pull into a cove that's full of standing timber, it used to be you fished every piece of that timber, now you can eliminate the ones that you don't see the fish on. So I'm just as guilty. I use it, maybe not to the extent a tournament guy was or someone that's going out teaching LivScope like yourself, but it's here to stay, and it is a very effective tool. Want to switch gears a little bit. So folks, if you book a trip with him and you got a brand new LivScope system, this is going to be well worth your money because not only are you going to catch fish, hopefully, but Barney's going to teach you a lot about the LivScope, and you're going to have a big jump as far as if you would have just got in your boat and just tried to use it. So there's a big plus. One of the things I want to talk about, we're in December, and here in Ohio, normally some of our lakes are starting to freeze over, but we've had a mild fall. Now, we had a few cold days here in the last couple of days where we were in the teens, actually, but things are back up in the 40s today. One of the lakes, if you want some bigger fish, like you say, Allen Creek's a good one. Buckeye Lake, however, they've drawn Buckeye down. And if you've never been to Buckeye, folks, the November show on BrushPile fishing, check that on YouTube. That's me and my son. We fished it in the spring. I was fortunate enough. I won some tournaments back in the day on Buckeye, and it's always been one of my favorite. But right now, there is nothing better than eating crappie out of this cold water. We've got water temperatures in the 40s. The fillets are just perfect. One of the lakes that I think gets overlooked, and we had a trip last year. Me and you was going to fish together, but I ended up, Tom, my buddy, he goes down with me, and then Zach Sorrell wanted to meet us. So Zach ended up getting on the boat with you, but Caesars Creek, we had two boats. You guys was in one area, we was in another. The thing I remember about that trip, now, I'm not going to try to lie and say that Caesars Creek has the big fish consistently that some of the air lakes do. But I'll tell you what, if you want cleaner fish, good numbers to where you're not on the lake all day in this cold, tell them about Caesar Creek because, man, I remember we caught a lot of fish.
We did. We caught a bunch that day. And that's another example of I hadn't met Zach before that day. And, a fella hops in the boat and 3 hours later, you talk on a weekly basis from there on, And
now you wish you didn't meet him, right?
No.
Sorry,
no,
Zach.
Zach's a great guy. And he makes some good jigs too.
Yeah.
But so Caesars, I think if I remember right, you thought we were heading to a different lake on the way to Caesars that day. And I pull into
Caesars going to East Fork that whole morning.
So we got on the water pretty quick, and I think within the first half hour we had 5 or 10 in the boat pretty quick, and we kind of hopped around to different areas like you said, and I think you and Tom went over into some timber, and Zach and I focused on some deeper brush piles, and when we met back up, I think we both pretty much had our limits.
It was a fun morning. And folks, nothing simple about what we were doing. Nothing difficult. We were on some standing timber. The one key for us is, again, I don't use my LivScope like Barney does, but I seen the fish on the trees. We started fishing some of them. It was cold that day. It was nasty, sort of like today is out there. And one of the things I was using just the regular double tail crappie magnet, and I cut some of the rings off, probably the top 3 or 4 rings I cut off, made that bait just a little bit smaller, and that seemed to really trigger the bite for us. That's also one of the first times, I know you guys have heard that, Crappie Magnet, we're going to be coming out with a new bait we've worked on for over 1 year. And I'll tell you what, Jeff is something, because Jeff wants to make sure if he releases something, it's going to be perfect. So we have changed it. That's one of the first times I've got to use it there, and that was cold water, and we caught fish that day on that. But on those brush piles that you were fishing, what depth were you concentrating on this time of year?
They were deep. They were, 18 to 22 feet. And if you know Caesars Creek, the state, the ODNR puts in tree piles. So there's different locations, and if you go to their website, you can find those waypoints. But a couple of those are like 300 and some Christmas trees. They're big piles, and
so you're not going to miss them on your depth finder.
Oh no, you can't miss them on side imaging either. So
yeah,
you get out there and they were just loaded up, man. Wintertime schools, and a lot of them were right on top of those piles, and 18 to 22 feet, like I said. But if you were hitting 14 to 16 feet, they were coming up and getting them. They were pretty active for winter fish.
Yep. Now, Barney, do you guide year round then, as long as there's open water?
Yep. I tell people, as long as there's an adequate boat ramp and we can get an inch or less of ice, we can go. Because I'll break an inch.
There you go. Now I want to switch gears, but before we do, let's get your information up there. If someone wants to book a trip with you, what's the easiest way to get you?
I'm pretty active on all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, BAM Fishing on both of those. And, you can certainly reach out to me via my cell phone, 567-674-9189. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of.
There you go. I imagine, just like most guys, in the springtime is really when you're booked pretty solid. So if you want to book a trip in the spring during the spawn, they need to get a hold of you pretty soon, don't they?
Yeah. And, as you know, Russ, I coach 3 different sports. I have 2 young sons, 10 and 13, and, football, baseball, wrestling. And we fit in some basketball in there, even though that's not my forte. But so a lot of my weekends are tied up with that sort of stuff too. But I don't have a problem taking a day off during the week and heading out to the lake. It takes a lot of arm twisting, but we can make it happen.
Folks, we talk about, we met at the Veterans Tournament, was the first time. We've become pretty good friends. And one of the things we talked about, is our son's grown up playing sports and this and that. Of course, mine is through college now, and he's in law school, but I get to watch Barney's boys grow up. And, I thought about trying to get your boy to transfer the quarterback, because he's got a pretty good arm. But then again, I thought, man, he would come to St. Mary's and we would waste that talent, because, as good as he throws, we would probably try 3 attempts a year. You know how our football goes here.
Russ, if you convinced him to move, you'd have to find a spot for me too, because I'd get disowned in this town.
I hear you. So, one of the things I wanted to talk to before we go to, and we actually had a podcast on this, but you were the one that told me about the program they have at Kenton High School. And this is one of the coolest things that I've been a part of on the podcast. Tell the folks what you guys got going over there.
Yeah, so I can't take any credit for the program. It's all Chuck Moore, Coach Moore, and our
Coach
superintendent.
Did a great job.
It was really cool for me, because I came through the school and had Chuck as a coach and a teacher. And now we're good friends and enjoy the outdoors together. And for that opportunity to come up, there's not a better man in Kenton, Ohio to run that program than Chuck Moore. So for him to be there is just the asterisks, the icings, whatever you want to call it, So, but that program takes students in the school that want to learn about the outdoors, whether it be fishing or hunting or trapping. And he brings in guys from, different outlets, Cabela's and things like that. And they teach the kids how to fish, how to hunt, how to process the game, how to set up traps. One of the things that I really enjoyed last year was he had a competition with the students who could set the traps the fastest. Right. So, and it ended up being a local girl that I know. Her dad takes her out and they do a lot of hunting and fishing, and she whooped all the boys, and that was pretty funny. But that seminar that you and I did for that day at the school there was probably one of the highlights of my year. That was so much fun for me personally, and getting to be up there with you and talk through the group and watching the kids and their engagement. It was just awesome.
I had a blast that day. That was fun. It was an eye opener. And folks, when he says, they They learn to process the game and stuff. We're talking deer, filleting fish. They are doing this in the classroom, and they've got a new building that's going to be built. And Coach was showing me some of the plans, and they're going to have a huge room dedicated for this. They're going to be able to hang deer in there now. It is just going to be outstanding. To me, you talk about one of the cutting edge programs in the high schools across the country. I would love to see other schools do this. And like you say, Coach, man, you got a lot of credit coming there. Folks, if you haven't seen that podcast, make sure you check that one out too. And Barney, I'm hoping this spring, if we get that invite back, man, we're going.
We'll make it happen, I'm sure. It's funny that you bring it up. I drove by the new school yesterday and the pond's dug. And,
is it really?
I took a photo of it and sent it to Coach and said, "Hey, I can see the crappie swimming already, man. There's no water in it yet, but I can see them."
You're going to have to send me a picture. We'll include that in this podcast then.
I'll shoot it your way after this.
But I'll tell you what, now, Barney, we talked about year round. We talked about how to get with you in the spring. If someone wants to book a trip, or even this winter, okay, you like the Columbus Lakes, but if they got one in particular, are you pretty open to that, or do you go where the fish are hitting the best right now?
Oh, I'll go anywhere. Anywhere inland. Can't do Erie, can't do Ohio River, but anywhere inland that's got an adequate ramp. We fish out of a 21-foot boat, so it's got to be a decent ramp.
Yeah.
I hit a little honey hole up at Killdeer Plains this past week. A lot of people don't know about it, but there's a lake up there called Pond 33 that it's a fun place if you can get up there.
Pond 33.
Ramp's a little tough. You're gonna fight a little bit to get your boat back on the trailer, but the fishing's worth it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, Barney, like I say, when you think about fishing guides, everyone thinks down south. And we've got some great opportunities here in Ohio. And this year in the podcast, I want to take a few more podcasts and showcase some of the Ohio guides. You were one of the first to come up with. And like I say, I know how you are with people. So folks, not only are you going to catch fish or learn to use the LivScope or whatever, you're going to have great conversation. Barney's just a great guy. You're going to have a good time. And I can guarantee he's going to be one that once you book that first trip, you're going to book another one with him. So Barney, I appreciate you joining us, man.
Well, I sure appreciate the opportunity, Russ, and thank you and the team there at BrushPile for having me. And I'll pay you that money that we talked about for saying all those nice things.
Hey, let your boys know. I hope they win all their games except against the blue and gold, man.
We'll put an asterisk beside that one for the extra effort game.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. It's always good to talk to Barney. And this is what we're doing now. It's winter time, so we're going to roll out the podcast. Barney, thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, Russ. Always good to talk to you, brother.
Have a great one. Folks, if you don't have the BrushPile app, make sure that you get that. It is completely free, whether you have the Android or the Apple phone. Download that. There are great features. You can get all of our podcasts, all of our shows. Everything is free. Too many things to mention them all, so check it out. Again, it's the BrushPile Fishing Podcast. Folks, I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned. We'll be back again with BrushPile Fishing, the video podcast.